So we are recording. So why don't we give all the people who are going to watch this after the fact from the recording a special present of jumping almost directly into our presenter. Sunil, well, so you never answered. Is it Sunil or Sunil?
Yeah, Sunil, that's correct.
Okay.
I got it. I think both are fine. Thanks, Rich. I think.
Take it away. It's all yours for the next, I don't know, 15 minutes to half hour or something like that.
Yes, I think 15 to 20 minutes, good. And it depends on how many questions are going to come up to me.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. And one good thing, I think we being a same team, we are just helping each other to learn or share our experience. That's a good thing. And it's not being very formal, so we can be casual. So that's fine.
Perfect.
So I'm going to share.
All right, share. I will put myself on mute.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.
Yeah. I'm more on practical. So it's just a small slider just to set the ground, and then we'll jump into hands-on. So what I've been trying, testing, and how easy can we get the things moving in REST. So that's here. So why REST? I think probably I'll put that forward. So there are many things, I think, if you are using, most of them have been Splunker, they've been using Splunk to get data in, and Cribl has been great for me. I've been using from last 1.5 to 2 years now. So this helped me in trying to do the things which we are not able to do with out-of-box add-ons which Splunk provide. So we tried multiple integrations. I think I've tried with Miro, I've tried Box, I've tried some storage integrations, which are through, again, APIs, and ServiceNow and Smartsheet. So these have been my interest. ServiceNow is not very direct. There is an add-on available, but the challenge with that add-on is we cannot customize it. We cannot write a query, what data can come in, what data can flow through. So that's where this would happen. So we can have our API written so that we can get the exact data what we are looking for. And also it's very simple to get in moving. So going forward, just to give a background on Cribl, we have, why we've been using Cribl is we've been using primarily for logstream. We have different sources, getting all the data in and getting it processed or push it to the source. So Cribl does great in transforming, if you want to secure, filtering, or doing any of the enrichments. So that's where it has been great for us. Our primary focus today is one of the function, which is collector. So we're going to look or elaborate more on REST, what all things we have been trying. The best part is the paginations. So where I have tried different settings, options, which are not available directly. That's something which is, we put it in the Cribl. So Cribl has that capability of getting the next page, or you want to program it the next page, how to get that. Or if there are a page limit, you want to limit that page. So how to get that. So I played around with these on the REST. So I would like to share those with you. And the best thing about REST is it's exactly like what we do in a schedule job. It's doing the collect, but you can have your intervals set up. Like it can run daily, or you can have ad hoc run. So what we're going to show in the demo is ad hoc, but we can have it scheduled to run how frequently you are looking for the data to refresh or being pulled. This is to set a background. So REST is now standard for any of the developer who's working. It's kind of a standard for them. So they would have a kind of a, you can call it as a back entry or the query entry. You want to query or retrieve a data. This is a common procedure protocol. So that's being used for almost all of things. You can have the cloud data, you can have your any applications, mobile apps, or even IoT devices. That's being the new trend. So that's all can be possible to REST. So REST supports different operations. And this is primarily done at the programming or the app developer who builds what kind of actions are allowed, whether it be post, get, put, delete. These being the common, we have a lot of restrictions being put on put and delete, but I think the get and post is quite easy. I think that's something we want to try to do. So how to get data out, or if you want to push something, how do we push those there? And these have been standard tools. I'm going to use is ARC, which is Advanced REST Client. This is only to demonstrate how the REST query looks, what kind of header or body data it's going to pull, and how do we get the next string. If there is a next page, how to get that information. So that's where you can use these client. So that's where now let's begin our hands-on. So before I switch my screen, any questions so far? You can use the chat, or I can take this questions at the end. Right. Okay. So this is what we did. So we have ServiceNow. I'm going to help you with how do we get this string, this URL, and what is it really, how do we create this URL? So I have this ARC.
Actually, I have a quick question, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah,
have you tested this with all various modules of ServiceNow, or does it only work with the core ITSM? How about SIR?
So this can be done with anything. So right now I have done is CMDB, which is one of the data which we are trying to put. But the same thing can be done for incident, change, problem, or any of the requested.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So I do have this page or a document put up. I think it's available on ServiceNow forum. So this will give you a deep insight. What all are the capability? So right now we are looking at CMDB, but this would be, the same thing can be done for incident, event, change, problem, any of the data. So what would change is probably the URL. If you look at this URL string, I'm just going to expand this. Yeah. So this is a tool which I was normally uses. This can be similar to Postman or SOAP UI. So I don't have to create this URL. It helped me in adding the parameters, and it composes this URL for me. And I just have to copy this URL to Cribl, and all things done. But I'm going to explain what is this URL doing. Till here, it's going to be common. Whatever table we decide, till the table name, it's going to be common. What's going to change is the table name. So where I have CMDB_CI, when it's incident, it goes as incident. If it is change, it changes to change. And I did try to put that in this document here. This is the URL. URL is the instance, ServiceNow instance, which we are using. In our case, I've used a dev environment. That's my dev URL. This is the table name. How do we get this table name is, I'm just going to show that quickly. I know most of them would have experience, but just want to show. I can just say incident. I select incidents. We have to look at the toolbar. Yeah. So where it says target, this becomes your table name. And if this is correct or not, there's an easy way to know. Just say incident.list. So that becomes your table name. So these are all the incidents which are available. And this would be the table name. And there is a TV article on the table names. If you want to know what is for the problem or change, I just have to type in here. Select on. So it goes as change_request. That's the table name. And I can do this. Oh, I'm sorry for the typo. So we can get any kind of such data using this, but we just need to know the target table name. So that's what this helps. Okay, but there are some parameters I would like to explain what we have done, which was not possible elsewhere, but using this query creations, I think we were able to get our things fine. This is display value. If I set this to false, what would change here is this table. You see these column names, and it says system administrator. This is a display name. But if I go behind, it is actually a user ID. So when I set that to true, so user ID is admin and display name says system administrator. So that's where these would be helpful. We wanted a value to be displayable, not the backend value. So we can set this to 2. Now I want to limit the number of records which we are pulling. So this parameter would limit that record. These are all optional fields, but this is good to have. Having it improve the performance and the time required to pull the data. Then there is some references when it comes to data. When you pull, it actually pulls something with a hyperlink, which goes as a references. So when I pull a record, we want to make sure that we don't want the hyperlinks to that record. So that's this option will do. It's going to trim down that particular records. So it will gonna exclude those references. So our data pull or the data we are pulling is going to be a trimmed down version, not the hyperlinked version. This is interesting. This is where it adds value. We have a query, and the query we want to see is what exactly it's doing here. So like this. I'm going to pull this down so we can see it clearly. So what is query doing is I want to get only a limited set of record. So where the install status is not 7. So not 7 is not retired. How do we get that is, I'm going to show that too. I'm just going to do a little shortcut to pull the table. So we're just going to use a table name. Yeah. So these are all the records which I have it in ServiceNow. And I'm just going to include all the fields too. Yeah. Now, if you look at these records, yeah, these records, there is something called the status. Yeah, I'm just going to add all these fields, or I can just have the required fields. If I scroll, there is something called install status. I'm looking for the field that says install status. Yeah. And they have different fields here. So if I set the display value true, this shows as display values. In the backend, it is actually a number. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 being the retired, they are stolen. These are the statuses. But I'm looking for something which has only installed. So I can actually say show matching. And it's going to create those filters for me. So you can see it has created this filter. So what we're doing is we are creating same query filters, but it is programmatically. It's like a parameter. I'm saying where install status is not retired, and the class being ACI server or Windows server or Linux server. How does that work is I have this record and I can just add a server type. is, or I can say is anything, and or is, and you can select one of the server. So I'm looking for, let's say, Windows. So this is going to give me all the servers which are Windows. Here. So that's exactly what we have done here. If I go to this ARC, this is the same logic we try to apply there. So I'm trying to get only the records which are important for me, like the servers, not the network card, only the class which are the parent classes, like ESXi or AXI servers. And the last parameter is the fields. If you look at here, the fields are the result, which holds the value of that particular record. So if I go back to CMDB, so this is the fields, and these are the field values, which holds the record value. And I'm interested in name. There is a default field, which is system ID. So ServiceNow has its default value, which says the system ID. It's like a unique record. How we have database has a unique record. This is a default one. I was looking for department. I was looking for FQDN. So we can, so this is a list, is an extensive list. So we can select what parameters we want to look for. There's one more trick I want to share. I think this has come with experience. So what you see here is a display value, but our query would always work on the backend value. If you want to see what is the backend value, I would say is export these records, either in CSV or Excel. Let's take the Excel. Because this is a trick which nobody would ideally know. So when we see this, this is what the field we're going to use. You open it. Yeah. Oh, surprisingly, this is not. I think I should have gone to CSV. Yeah. So if you look at the CSV record, these are actually the backend field values. So this is what we're going to use it for query. So if we go here and check these values, which says department FQDN host underscore name, we are getting that from here. So IP underscore address, that should be here. There you go. So this IP address field is with underscore, but on a display, I think it would be IP space address. So it may not match there. Yeah. So that's where it differs. So I would say if you were looking at any record, and if you want to see its exact field value, even if you go for an incident, I would say is export that record in CSV. Because Excel doesn't give you that value, it gives you a display value. And now you have the name which to be used. So this is being covered here, how we have done. There is a limit which defines how many records you can get at one call. Smaller is better. I would say is its default is 10,000. It is a big number. I would say is change it that value to hundreds or 200. We don't want this record to pull a big massive records at once. So that's how it is. And there this query, this is what we were learning, how we can have this query. Why we need this query is we want to pull only the records which are modified or changed or newly discovered. So this query will help. We can actually use a order by, and we can have one of the field mentioned. So this is all being done in ServiceNow, and when we are getting the data, it is already sorted. Only the new record is what being pulled. So that can be done. And we can have our last successful run as one of the argument. I'm going to show that too, how we can set the last successful as one of the argument in the query. And this is a simple example. Okay, so let me go to Cribl now. We have the query done, but the main part is here, pagination. So for the rest, it is always, we have to look for how many data, how many pages are there. So that's where the paginations will help. So if you have only one record, I think one query, the page would work. But in ServiceNow, it is always a web link. So how does it work is, so let me start off fresh, just want to explain. When we go for a add collector, let's see some test. There are two ways we can do this REST collection. One which has discover and other has collect. Discover is when you know you need to pull some field or a parameter from a first URL. It is like you have an argc which gives you a username and password. So you can have a discover part of that, have the parameter being set. Once you have that password being collected, you can have that part of the URL. So in the ServiceNow, I have not used discover, but that's a way forward we can use it. So we can have our discover doing the identification or retrieval of password, and the next URL, you can use that as a parameter. Like something which has a token, get the token and use that as a collect URL. That's where this would happen. That's the collect. This is the target server where you do the URL. In our case, URL is ServiceNow. So that's this one. Our operation is get, but you have different operations. You can have post with body or other. So most of the REST calls I've used or created here is a get request. So we're trying to get a URL and try to get the response. But it can also be used for a post. Post is I want to create an incident or a record or update a record. So that can be done through the post operation. So you need to know, let's say this is the change record. So you need to pass on the unique identifier. I think I was mentioning there is ServiceNow which will have a unique record. It's not the change number. There's something called SID. So that's what we have to target. I'll show that too, how to see that too. So that's where the post will come into effect. But for getting the data, get is the best option there. Collect parameters. You can have this as the parameters which can be used. Collect parameter is like the next page. If you want to go to the next page or you want to pass that in the URL, the collect parameter would pass in the URL. So that's what help there. We have headers. And if you want to see what to send in the headers, this would help. I use this for finding out what is the part of the header. So if you use this, it tells you all the information. So there are basic type like content type. So this, even if you have not mentioned, it will assume it the content type, but it's better to always mention it. The content type being application JSON. And if the cookies are automatically set, we don't change anything. What kind of authorization is it? If it is going to be basic or it's going to be token. So this, we can use this, a different type of it. So where you see bearer is the token. You can have different type of authentication done. In our case, this is a simple basic authentication which I have used. So we can use basic and have username and password put in there. Now, in paginations, what is response body attribute is you're getting the information in a field. So what you may mean by that is I have this, the other URL, a test URL. If you look at this string, there is a link for the next page, or it's part of the response body. So this is where Cribl will come into role. We have to use a response body attribute and mention the attribute which holds the next URL. So if you see here, this is the next page URL. And the same logic is used for Smartsheet, because Smartsheet also sends a next link. I use that logic to go to the next page. And this is nothing. If I go here, any of the record, you see these pages, right? This indicates there is a next page. So programmatically, you're telling that, oh, there is a next page available. When you click, it actually loads the next page. This is in UI, but what we have this is a backend. So we are trying to do that part of the response body. We are checking if there is a next URL, the next page being available. And we have to mention that attribute. So if you see here, the attribute says next. So that's so simple. So we put that. If we switch this to header attribute, there are some fields which are part of the header. And if you want to see that example, let's go to ServiceNow. And if I look at the header, there is a field which I'm interested, which is this, X total count. This shows number of record which is available in ServiceNow. So this says 83. We can confirm that in ServiceNow. So this should say 83 too. Move this. Scroll to the right. This is showing 33. I'm wondering, this is 33. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I had a filter. That is why it is not matching. Sorry for that. If I go to all, this should show the exact count. It is showing 3,233, but I have a filter on. So if I set these filter conditions, I'm only getting is 83 records. And so it's a kind of a validation. So if I see this field, which is a column total, number of records which are being pulled, I can use this header information to see if there are more pages. Okay, so that's what I have used for ServiceNow integration. In the logic, I'm going to show that. So this would be helpful when we do, all this part is part of the pagination. If we know there is an attribute which covers in the header, we can use that bit. There is a web link. This is where it says the response would have a link to the next record. So that's here. It does says next. Okay. Response header. It's part of one of the value here. Oh, there isn't any next because I have only 83 record. So I had limit of 100. So there isn't any next record. If I remove this filter, I think I should have the next URL. I'm going to modify this. So what I'm doing is playing with this value to have more record being pulled. I wanted everything else. So everything else should be good. Now I should have a massive record data. I'm going to verify that in the header. How many records? You see this link? So this is part of the header. When you have more pages, you would see a record like this, which wasn't there before. And you can see this record count. Since I removed all the filter, this would match number of record in CMDB, which is 3233. If I run this, it's going to have multiple iterations. Since I have mentioned it needs to go 100 times, limit is 100. So that's going to go almost like number of records. So 3,200. So that's going to be like 33 times around. It will go in the loop for 33 times until it sees, oh, there is no more. Next link. So that's the useful when we use this paginations with web link, which has a link for the next record. And you have something called offset limit. You can also set number of the field which is holding, number of pages you want to download, you want to limit it. These are the things which you can use, like size and limit. These two we haven't used much, but these three are quite useful. I'm going to show you how we are using this header attribute in ServiceNow, and the web link, and the body attribute. So any questions so far? I think, is this clear? How the pagination work? Where does it get the data from?
I haven't seen any questions show up in the chat yet, and so far everything's been really clear.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
How-
either
how
I'm too
does-
good or
How
I'm
does
too fast.
how does it keep track of the checkpoint value?
In here, in Cribl, we don't really do, Cribl does that check automatically. When you do this web link,
Yeah, so maybe I'll ask this question a little differently. It's 1:30 here on the US East Coast. I run the query. I get
Yeah.
50 results back based on the last modified time.
Right.
I run the same exact query at 2:30. I only want to pick up the deltas.
I think that's what I want to show that here. So we can
So
have
how
this
actually
set up.
okay.
So you can have the time being set, the scheduled, and you can take this delta.
Okay,
So
there it is.
when it is, you want to use this as an next string. So it takes the time, and I'm actually looking for the records minus these many seconds.
So if there are any events that are outside that window, they would not be pulled.
Exactly. That's good. And it does show the output here. It will tell you the time converted. So you know where to play around with how to get that time there. So this is good part. I use this substitutions of value, and also I use this as a if and else conditions too. So you can use like this. If you have more data available or not, if there's a null, whether you want to go to the next stream or not, you can have this kind of a check done. So this was done, I think it was part of the Smartsheet learning where the field value was more available. If it is false, there is no more data available to be pulled. And if it is not null, then only you go for the next string. So this is a simple if condition, but that's helps us for making sure the job is stopped when all the data is being pulled. So these measures can be put in place. So this is what we have done for Smartsheet. And I want to show this in a running action. So we got the query done. We set up this pagination, which is the web link. We know what parameter holds that next page. And then rest, I think we can leave it default. Authentication is being important. So you need to mention the account which you're going to use for the query. And I'm going to just run this. I have to create a custom event breaker. I'm going to show that too. So now each record here is actually one CMDB record or entries. So this is a SysID, which is a unique for ServiceNow. So all CMDB records will have this SysID. And it will tell you whether it's operational, whether it's a machine, what's its IP, which department it belongs to, whether it's Linux or Windows machine. And the event breakers being simple, I think I use a simple JSON event breaker. And it's doing nothing much except they're doing a regular expression to find these data, which will make sure the data, when it's in format in JSON, it breaks them into each record. If you don't want them to be broken down into each record, we can have this disabled and we'll get the data in JSON. But we want it as an individual record, so I had this enabled. But we can try a default one. Being a test one, I think that's helpful. So I'm going to move this to Cribl default. So we're going to see the data in JSON. So everything is going to be as a single record. So now 83 line items were all clubbed together. And if I see this in the raw event, it is in the curly brackets, start and end in the square bracket. So that's what we got rid of, and it breaks into an individual record. So that's being covered here as well. I think I tried to cover that event preview. Here is a breaker. So we had this raw and created a custom line breaker, which is only to look for the curly brackets and comma, and you have the data format. So this is great. So ServiceNow, this is the pagination method which would work. To get the next record, we need this 5988 web link, and the next should be the link for this. And
all right, so we're really close to needing to move on here.
Yeah. And the last one is Smartsheet. I unfortunately got my access revoked, so I can only run and show it quickly, and we should be good to go there. But this is a different type of paginations which we used. It is using a body attribute, and we are pulling these two attributes from the body of the query. So it would look like this. The body is the response. That becomes your header body.
All right.
Okay. So, Rich, I think I'm almost done. If any questions, I'm ready.
Perfect. Like I say, if we need a part 2, we can always do that as well. So
yes.
And I think the example you gave was thorough. I think it's easy to kind of understand some of the other options now too. So I thank you, and I think we'll move right on because we have one more thing. Hopefully you have enough time to get through your things. See the head nodding. This is perfect.
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and take over? You can share your screen or do whatever you need to.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. Hey, everyone. My name is Gayathri. I am the principal product manager for Cribl Stream. I'm really excited to be here today. Going forward, from the product management side as well, we want to stay a little more engaged with you guys on the community. And I know that you guys probably also know about Ben Marcus, who is our other PM that does attend community sessions. He was a customer that eventually joined Cribl. So, I'm sure a few of you know him as a previous Cribl customer. Okay, that's it. The agenda for today. So like I said, we'd like to really stay a little more engaged with you guys from the community side. especially during these user sessions. And as a part of that, one of the things that we'd like to focus on is introducing new features or any features that are going to be in beta to you guys. You guys are, I know you guys are, pretty forward, advanced users of Cribl Stream. So we really, really love your feedback to know what's cooking right now and how it tastes. You want more salt added, you want a little more spice added to it. So let us know what you want. So as a part of engagement today, I'd like to talk about Cribl Stream projects. This is something that you guys, some of you in the community might have heard of, also referred to as subscriptions, data subscriptions. This is a feature that's currently in beta in 4.1.1. If you are somebody that's using 4.1.1 and you have an enterprise license, again, want to spell that out very clearly. This is an enterprise only feature, so you need to have an enterprise license to be able to see this. But this feature is currently in beta, and going forward in 4.2, when we come out, this is going to GA. So I'd like to walk you guys through a little bit this feature a little bit today and see if I get any feedback, or maybe after this, you can go back and try this out in your own environments and come back to us and let me know. I am on the community Slack, so feel free to reach out to me. My name is as it shows up there. It's Gayathri. Just feel free to reach out to me on the community Slack as well. All right, so let me jump right into the talk. All right. Oh, oops, not that. Okay, there's the one. Okay. So talking about stream projects, why are we doing this to begin with, right? So one of the things that we see as a theme, as our customers tend to get into more advanced cases, is that there are more users that are onboarding to Stream as a platform. Even within your company, you probably might have seen, probably started with a single user, a couple of users, and then we've, go on to see more users that, am I sharing my screen at all? I am, okay. I don't seem to, I can't see who's using or who's around, so just give me 1 second. Whoops, there is, sorry about that. Just give me 1 second. Okay, never mind. Okay. Please feel free to, put any questions on chat. Happy to answer those as well. Anyways, okay. So going back to the use case itself. So what we're seeing is as the team that uses Stream at our customers grows, there are some interesting challenges that come along with it, right? One of the most common challenges that we see is that, hey, earlier it used to be 1 or 2 of us that were using Stream, but now I have multiple teams that have onboarded to Stream. I see multiple other users that have onboarded to Stream, and these admin level permissions that seem to be persistent across the board are not really working for me. Or even, even if we are working, by the way, on access controls, that is also something that's going to land in 4.2. But even with those access controls, what happens is managing granular permissions at some point becomes a little tedious, right? That there are a bunch of users that just work on a certain set of pipelines. They are not really users that need end-to-end access to Stream. As a Cribl admin, you're actually onboarding new sources, new destinations, managing, doing other parts of administration, but you probably might not actually be the one that's writing the pipelines. So today, that's not how it works today, right? You as an admin are likely creating onboarding the sources, onboarding the destinations, and are also creating the pipelines for these users. You're managing the routes. But at some point, you're going to say, these pipelines are the IT team pipelines. These pipelines are the security team pipelines. These pipelines are the auditing team pipelines. And once that starts happening, it becomes a little tedious for you as an admin to manage everything. The IT team might come back and say, hey, by the way, we want to change this one pipeline. We want to tweak it so that we are processing data this way, or we are dropping more data, we are adding new data, yada, yada. You don't want to be that one person that's just by the virtue of being Cribl admin. You don't want to be that one person that's always managing those pipelines for those teams. The second part of it is that as a team member, or the teams themselves might also not want you to be their one bottleneck who's because you're busy, you're going to probably take a day or 2 days to get back to fix those issues for those teams. And they are going to say, hey, why don't you give us a little more self-service options here so that we can actually go and manage our pipelines without having to wait on you as a Cribl admin. The second angle to this is that once we open up self-service, these users are not likely the hardcore stream users that know everything end to end. So they'll likely not want to see all of those routes and all of the complexities there. They would prefer having a more simplified view where all they look at it is just the pipelines and how to manage the data themselves without having to worry about data onboarding or destination onboarding. The third big piece to this is any changes that users are making. Let's say there is an upstream, there is an up-level pipeline that exists. If a user goes and changes it, today what happens is there are downstream repercussions to those changes. If you change an upstream route, there are repercussions to downstream routes. So reducing that blast radius from changes, so that if one team changes their pipeline, you don't want to see any cascading effects from that pipeline for other users. So localizing the changes and reducing the blast radius from those changes is a third aspect of this. So given that, the way we've come up with what we call stream projects now. So what stream projects does for you as a user is their scope contains spaces that will allow you to create projects for specific teams, so that now you as an as a Cribl admin can go in and say, hey, IT team, here is your project. Hey, security team, here is your project. And within the project, I will make the data that you are entitled to accessible to your teams. I'll make the destinations that you are entitled to accessible to your teams, so that, let's say, if the security team owns the SIM license, the IT team will not have access to that destination anymore, so that nobody from the IT team can go and write anything to that. Or let's say there is S3 access, but the IT team and the security team use different buckets to store their data. Now you don't want to give, the current model is that all of those destinations are open to everybody. So anybody can, by mistake, access those and write to those destinations that they are not entitled to. So with stream projects, what you can do is you can say, only the SIM destination and the security bucket are only available in the security project. The IT destination and maybe Elastic or some other tool for observability is only available in the IT project. Nobody else has access to those. So you're going to really lock down on who can write to those destinations. Now, as far as data onboarding goes, we are going to allow you to create what are called data subscriptions. Subscriptions are essentially like substreams of data. So they're very, very similar to how routes appear today, right? So you have access to the entire data fire hose. All of the data that's coming through routes is going to be available. And you can provide filters and say, I only want to look at the metrics that are coming out of Cribl internal source, so that I can just send those metrics out onto a destination and build my own observability dashboards, for example. Or you can say, I'm only interested in these security events that I care about. And I'm going to put a filter for that on the fire hose and then make it available to the security team so that they can do whatever they want with that data. That's essentially how projects are going to work. Here is just a quick schematic of what that looks like, right? So here is the data fire hose that's coming through. As a Cribl admin, I can go and create two projects. Let's say this is the IT project, this is the security project. I can go put in a subscription that says all the data that the IT team is entitled to, I'm going to make it available via this subscription. You can have multiple subscriptions if you want, by the way. And then you can also say, these are the destinations that are available within the IT project. Now, this is what you do as a Cribl admin, and you'll set up these projects. and you'll make those available to users and say, IT team, here is your project. Security team, here is your project. Your users can now log on to these projects and work within those. Now, as a user, I can log on to the project, and what I get to see is a really scope contained limited view. I'll just get to see this subscription as a meta source, and these destinations are the ones that are available for me to write the data onto. Now I can go and write my own pipeline and say, all of the data that's coming through this subscription, I'm just going to use this pipeline to process that data and write it out onto a destination. Now, this is a piece, as you can see now, as the Cribl admin, all you did was set up the project, set up the the sources and the destinations. Now, as a project user, I can log in, and then I can create the connections between my sources and destinations, and I can define which pipelines I'm going to use to process that data. So really, again, very limited access to the data users, so that they can still do whatever they want to do with the data, but that's all they are going to do. They'll not be able to, for example, see, hey, what are the other sources that we are ingesting the data from? No, that's not going to be available to a data user, so that you're really locking down on the permissions and the visibility that they have into stream. Okay, I'll stop, take a break there, and see if there are any questions.
Questions yet? We are getting close on time though, so.
Yeah, I would have really loved to show you guys a project. I wanted to do a quick demo, but there isn't a whole lot of time. So why don't I just show you guys what I have already set up here, and then just do a quick walkthrough. All right. Okay.
That sounds great.
Okay. So here, if you are in 411, this is what you'll see. You'll see this new option called projects, which is going to be a beta. And then if you click on projects, you'll see two options here. One is subscriptions, the other one is data projects. So here is a subscription that I've created. Again, if you've used routes, this is a very familiar view to you guys. I have a subscription ID. I can define a filter that I have in there, and I can define the pipeline that I want to use, provide an optional description there. And I should be able to see which data is coming through that, but just by using a capture. Okay. That's not working. Why don't I quickly add a subscription here? Let's say logs, and then I'll put a filter in here and say input ID is my Cribl internal logs. Yeah. Am I looking? Oh, no wonder. Sorry, looking at the wrong instance. This is the instance that I have set up. Okay, here is my subscription that I already have. So I have a Cribl logs filter in here. I can just do a capture, and you'll be able to see that I have all my Cribl internal logs that are coming through there. Okay. I can go to my data projects, and here is a quick project that I've set up. And what I've said is that this project has subscription 1 that's available, that is providing the data to this project. And then the destinations that are open to me are a dev null destination that I can use for testing. And then there is an S3 bucket called GP logs that I can use as well. Now, that is what I have set up as an admin user. I can go under monitoring, for example, and be able to see, what's available under projects, and then I should be able to see the subscriptions, the destinations, any pipelines or packs. Currently, I don't have any pipelines or packs available there. This is what you're going to set up as a Cribl admin. Now, okay. Now, the second side to this equation is, what is the project user going to do? I also want to show you guys a different view of this as well. So here is what I have set up as a Cribl admin there. This connection likely wouldn't exist, so I'll delete that. But this is what I have set up now as an admin to be available within this project. I have a subscription, and I have 2 destinations that are set up there. Now, I'm going to use a different browser, just so I can log in as a different user. I'm going to log in as an IT user here. And this is a user that has project access. So now when I go in, you can see the difference here, right? So instead of getting access to routes, pipelines, everything else, I'm directly dropped into this view of the project. I can use the dropdown to select all of the projects that I'm entitled to and which one I want to work in. Now I have this project, so I can just connect that source to a destination, And then I can do a quick capture and you'll see that I'll be able to see all of the data that's coming through, and I'll decide what kind of pipelines I want to do. I can do a pipeline. I can add an existing pipe. I can choose an existing pipeline, or I can also alternatively create a pipeline. And then I should be able to create, connect my source to a destination there. And that's pretty much it that I can do as a stream user, as a project user now. But you can see the user flows are now, pretty separate. And any changes that I want to make as a Cribl or data user or a project user, I really have no dependency on the Cribl admin anymore to add a pipeline for me to make any changes to my pipeline. And if you have multiple projects, you'll be able to see that each of those projects has a very distinct view. It's all of the axes, everything is very separate. There are caveats, by the way. I know we are almost out of time, so I'm just going to say there are some caveats. This is a beta, so there are. I'm happy to talk about the caveats maybe in our next call. But just be aware. Give this a try. Test drive it first, please.
Perfect. No, that was great. That demo was wonderful. Even the little bit you just did was like, that's what this was all about. So that's
Awesome.
perfect.
Don't forget to register for CriblCon July 17th down at the Mirage in Las Vegas. I guess it's down for me. We'll have talks similar to this one. So, yep, Sean's on here. Sean will be one of our presenters, and we'll be able to do live and in person, being able to see everybody and learn from each other. And then that's on Monday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will have labs and whiteboards so that you can come and learn and get your hands on Cribl and be able to test the experts and ask them their questions.
Great. All right. Well, thanks everybody so much. Sorry we ran over by a minute or two. But is what it is. So anyway, you all have a great next month. We'll see you in approximately one more month.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
All right. Bye.